Hello, everyone. Uh, Interesting article I just read on abcnews.com. It says major U.S. companies ask Supreme Court to uphold affirmative action. And the article, which is by Devin Dwyer, again of ABC on abcnews.com, goes on to say more than 80 major American companies that employ tens of thousands of U.S. workers are asking the Supreme Court to uphold the use of race as a factor in college admissions, calling affirmative action critical to building a diverse workforce and in turn growing profits. The businesses, some of the most high profile and successful in the U.S. economy, outlined their position in legal briefs filed today ahead of oral arguments this fall, and a pair of cases expected to determine the future of the race based policy. The companies told the court that they rely on universities to cultivate racially diverse student bodies, which in turn yield pools of diverse, highly educated job candidates that can meet their business and customer needs. Says the government's interest in promoting student body diversity on university campuses remains compelling from a business perspective, the companies wrote in a friend of the court brief. The interest in promoting student body diversity at America's universities has, if anything, grown in importance. Among the businesses are American Express, United and American Airlines, Apple, Intel, Bayer, General Electric, Kraft Heinz, Microsoft, Verizon, Procter and Gamble, and also Starbucks. And these are just some of them. This isn't even all of them. Uh, Citing data and research on a rapidly diversifying America, the company said race-based diversity initiatives are about more than what many call a moral imperative and critical to their bottom lines. Prohibiting universities nationwide from considering race among other factors and composing student bodies would undermine businesses' efforts to build diverse workforces, they said. See, article goes on to say 8 of the top U.S. science and technology companies, including DuPont, filed a separate brief also stressing their view on the importance of racially diverse campuses for cultivating the best future innovators. If universities are not educating a diverse student body, then they are not educating many of the best, they wrote, urging the court not to strike down affirmative action. Today's markets require capitalizing on the racial and other diversity among us. Those efforts, in turn, contribute to the broader health of our nation's economies. In a series of decisions beginning in 1978, the article goes on to say, the High Court has found that race can be used as one factor among many when considering college admissions applications, but that a school cannot use quotas or mathematical formulas to diversify a class. A conservative group challenging the use of race as a factor in undergraduate admissions at Harvard University, the nation's oldest private college, and the University of North Carolina, the nation's oldest public state university, as asking the court to overturn that precedent. The group, Students for Fair Admissions, alleges that Asian American applicants have been illegally targeted by Harvard and rejected at a disproportionately higher rate in what they claim is a violation of Supreme Court precedent and the students' constitutional rights. 2 lower federal courts have rejected those claims. That the Supreme Court has agreed to hear the cases is widely seen as an indication that the justices could be willing to revisit their precedents on affirmative action and in the use of racial classifications and admissions altogether. Will be the first test, the article goes on to say, on the issue for the court's 6-3 conservative leaning majority. So this will be interesting to see how this turns out. Always it was very interesting to me that a lot of people that have issues, when a company or college considers race as one of, again, many factors, is that is the only factor that they're visibly or emotionally bothered by, because as it says, it's one of many. There's also alumni-based preferences too, meaning if your parents went to college, that will be taken into consideration. And some people that go to college are there because their parents went there, and their grades may not be better than yours either. Your grades may be better than theirs, but they're there. And if you're not out there protesting, you're your anger and frustration about alumni-based preferences being considered, being factored in. You can't be protesting about anything. I feel like my thing in life is always be consistent. You can't just say I'm offended when colleges consider race as, as one of many factors, but not the other factors. You got to be mad at all the factors then. You can't just say race is the only one that bothers me, because the same way someone can say, well, it's not fair to include race as a factor because I can't help that I'm this race. I can't help that I'm white. I can't help that I'm Asian. Well, someone also can't help that their parents aren't alumni of that college, and that they're not going to maybe get that preference to go in there, right? A lot of people sometimes that go to colleges are there because their parents are there. And when the admissions board is reviewing them, they're taking that into consideration. And again, that's why they say race is one of many of other factors. There's several factors. So yes, race can be taken into consideration, and I believe should be taken into consideration, but it's not the only thing. But I do believe that race, as we know, is a very emotional subject. It can be a volatile subject, and it's the one that people seem to be, the most obsessed by. And so I think people fixate on that one because they feel like it's visible. People can see skin, they can see pigment, and I think maybe there's just an obsession with it, and they feel like, oh well, it's the thing about race that bothers me. It's the thing that gets people's ire up the most. But keep in mind, there's other things that are taken into consideration, and if you're not out protesting about those other things, I mean, if you want to end race-based quote, preferences or race being taken into consideration when it comes to college admissions, you better be upset about any other thing being taken into consideration. Because trust me, there's other factors. It's not just that. So, but I thought this was an interesting article. I'll definitely be following this in the future, and if there's any updates here, I'll definitely be making some more videos on it. All right, be back soon.